So the Phoenix Suns have just completed a trade to acquire Bradley Beal. The Bradley Beal sweepstakes is finalized. He will be a member of the Phoenix Suns, joining Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. In this trade, the Phoenix Suns will be sending out Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, a couple of pick swaps, and some second-round picks. A very big trade that will have a lot of big implications on next year's NBA playoff race. We gotta talk about it. Touching first on the Wizards side, what a fumble job this was for Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal was supposed to be your franchise guy, but in the 3-4 seasons that you had him post John Wall, you weren't able to make any noise. He constantly complained and complained and complained. There were so many trade rumors, and in last year's offseason, we thought that was it. We thought Bradley Beal would be moving on, but no. The Washington Wizards rewarded him with a max deal, 5 years, $251 million, and that's not all. They gave that man a no trade clause. That no trade clause basically gutted any type of trade value that Bradley Beal got, and is the reason as to why you got so little in return. But the deal is done, and the Wizards have to live with it, but now they're in a much deeper hole. It's obvious they're headed into a full rebuild in hopes of coming back 3, 4, 5 years down the line much stronger. Things are already very interesting for the Wizards this offseason, but they could get even more interesting as we get closer and closer to free agency. There's already been some talks about a Kristaps Porzingis trade. Kyle Kuzma is set to be a free agent, and I don't know if the Wizards want to pay him all that money, considering the fact that they just traded away Bradley Beal. So with all that in mind, the Washington Wizards might actually have the worst roster in the NBA right now, which I guess is kind of good for them, considering that they're a team that's looking to rebuild, retool, whatever they want to do in that franchise. They're looking to start over, and if that's the case, this is obviously a step in the right direction. And talking about the movable assets they were able to get, Chris Paul has already been linked to or talked about as potentially going to a third team. So far, the team that's been talked about the most is the Los Angeles Clippers. On Landry Shamet's side, he is only 26, so he could stay for the rebuild, but in my eyes, considering the fact that he's been on a lot of playoff teams as of recently, I think he's as good as gone, and you should be able to garner like a late first round pick for him. The Washington Wizards still have the 8th overall pick in this year's NBA draft, and a pick that I believe that whoever they draft here might honestly be the #1 option for this team next season. Now it's going to be up to them to capitalize on this opportunity, get a cornerstone piece, continue to make moves to add more draft capital and more young players, and officially commence the rebuild. Now for the biggest topic of discussion, we got to talk about how Bradley Beal fits on the Suns. Now I'm not the minority here, but I do not like this move for the Phoenix Suns. And now with this trade, the Phoenix Suns are right up on that apron and will be in the second tax apron moving forward. And this is the trio that you're stuck with: Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. And that's not to downplay it at all, because these are 3 very, very, very highly skilled NBA players. But it's so little room to do anything else. Like I said, Bradley Beal has that massive extension, and a no trade clause on top of that. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be here for the remainder of that contract. Kevin Durant is under contract into the 2026 NBA season, where he will be 38 years old. At 37 years old, Kevin Durant will be making $53 million in that season. Now, it is still Kevin Durant, but I mean, at some point, age has to hit, and the play has to start declining. And there's 2 big questions for me regarding this move. How are they all going to share the ball? And where is the defense going to come? A couple weeks ago, they hired Frank Vogel as a coach of this team, and Frank Vogel is a defensive-minded coach. And for a defensive-minded coach to succeed, you're going to need to have defensive players. There is a big scarcity of that on this Phoenix Suns team. So with that in mind, I think that more moves are going to happen. One player in particular that I think is certain to be moved is DeAndre Ayton. If you can replenish some of that depth, trading DeAndre Ayton in a 3-for-1 deal or 2-for-1 deal, I think you have to do that if you're Phoenix, and I feel like that's already the plan that they have in mind. But look at it on the bright side: 3 extremely skilled scorers, and once you get to the playoffs, the nitty gritty, you're going to need as many of those as you can have. I don't think there's any team in the NBA that can stack up with just those 3. Now, of course, there's more to basketball than just 3 players, but very, very, very good trio to have. But where does this put the Suns in the Western Conference? Do the Suns have a legitimate shot at making the NBA Finals and potentially winning it all? Are they better than the Nuggets as of right now? No, I don't believe so. Are they better than the Lakers, the Warriors, the Grizzlies once Ja Morant returns from his suspension? There's still a lot of questions to answer. Things aren't shaping up all too well for the Phoenix Suns in my opinion, but I want to wait to give my final verdict until I see their final roster, because the offseason is still young. There's a lot more time to make a lot more moves, and I do believe the Phoenix Suns will stay aggressive. So we'll check back in about a month's time, see where they are, and make my final decision. But as of right now, I'm not too sure how much I like the trade, but it is going to be very interesting basketball to watch.